God, I'm actually welling up. I bow down to Queen Ekin-Su and it's the may she rule the world. Hi and welcome back to the final episode of Love or Lie Island 2022. I'm Adam Miller, TV editor at metro.co.uk, and I am of course joined by body language queen Judy James, where we take a look at this year's Islanders and decide if they're telling us one thing but their body language is saying something else. Now, Judy, we have our winners. And it'll be absolutely no surprise to anyone that I was absolutely delighted.
Really? Oh, wow, you hit that well.
I honestly don't think I haven't. I've never rooted for a couple more, I don't think. What did you make of the final result?
I'm nearly still sitting in front of the screen because I'm going to demand a refund. I missed a bit at the start, and this is my bad. I fast-forwarded past Laura. I was still waiting for the bit where they split the prize money at the end. That's my favourite bit. And I thought maybe this year somebody's going to run off with the prize money, maybe David. And I literally, the programme ended. I was still sitting there like a little puppy looking at the screen. Where's the prize money?
It did feel like if there was ever going to be a year for it to happen, it was maybe that's why they did it, because they were too scared that it would actually happen.
That is my conspiracy theory also. I think they guessed that was going to happen. But, I have to say, my plot line would have been, Davide takes all the money, he turns around and says, you're a liar and you're an actress. And that's all. She then can act out her distraught scene. We all love her even more, and she's got what she should have, which is her own career by herself. I think that would have been perfect.
Oh, God, I can see it now. Oh, my God, my heart's going just thinking about it. Well, today we're going to go through each of the finalists, and I think we, like we said before, I think it was probably the right final four. But we're going to go in order of how they came in the competition. So we're going to start off with Andrew and Tasha and take a look at a couple of moments from last night.
And I never thought I'd feel this way, the way I feel about you.
Well, the next step, I think, definitely moving in, because we're both in London. I feel like it's a perfect opportunity just to stay together, enjoy good times together, all about the good vibes, as we all know. So I feel like, it's going to have a great time, for sure.
Oh, God, I'm actually welling up. But honestly, a couple of weeks ago, I just didn't see any development with these two or any sign that they'd develop. And then by the end, I really believed it. I'm sure this is where you're going to come and rain on my parade. But yeah, what did you make of Andrew and Tasha, at least by the end?
I love the way that we are such polar opposites.
Always.
We're like Frozen, I'm the one with the heart of glass and ice and things like that. I think they were great. If this was my first Love Island, I would have been, oh, they're wonderful, they're fabulous, they're so much in love. I love the piano music, it's really getting me. But because I've watched it for so long and I'm so cynical, I want a better hit than that. And I'm afraid that I was sitting there thinking, I'm going to file my nails while this bit's on. It's not their fault that they're not boring, but it's not their fault that I'm finding them a bit boring. But it's just we've kind of been there and done it in previous Love Islands, and I'm looking for something a bit fresh. So it really isn't their fault. And clearly we got, he was biting his lip, he was rocking from foot to foot. Every time he looked at her, she was tearing up. That made him lose his place a bit. Bless him that when he lost his breath, he breathed in. And just for people, watching at home, what you should do then is to actually exhale, breathe out. But then, how many people are going to be standing there doing a fake marriage to Tash, so but you couldn't fault them by this stage. I suppose for me, if I'm going, I can't wait to see them when they get out and see what happens to them, I would be lying, I'm afraid. But they've done well in there. They've got to that place where they were the romantic option.
Do you think there was a shift, though? I think because there was, I think for was it 8 weeks the whole show together? I reckon for the first 5, pretty much all of us would unanimously say he's more into her, she's not even that into him at all. By the end, though, do you think there was a kind of a shift in that dynamic?
Only for me, because I actually started thinking he's not that into her either.
Oh, really?
I've gone down the seismic wrong direction.
Oh, that's interesting.
The point with them, from watching their body language, this is where I genuinely struggle with these two.
Yeah.
I watched them over the weeks and they would be flicking from one state. I would watch her look at him absolutely besotted, and then about 2 seconds later it would switch off. She was very confusing in her signals, and him to a certain extent a little bit as well. I think clearly she's the one that's kind of not dominating the relationship, but she's the one that, we'll get married, we're moving together, blah, 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 blah. He looks absolutely delighted to go along with that. But I with Andrew, I still don't feel that I know him.
I know what you mean, actually, yeah.
Yeah, and I know him as Andrew and Tasha, but I what we saw in Casa and Moore and everything, and I'm not saying that means that they should distrust, forever. But I just perhaps would have felt better if we'd have explored more of that separate side to him. He's clearly, I would imagine, got a strong personality. He was chosen to go in there. So yeah, I think it's him really. I'm just not sure who Andrew is, and that's probably very mean. And I wish them a happy life together.
No, I think that probably is fair. So you'd say that there's still something that when they're kind of talking about the moving in together, that's very much her directing that conversation and him almost nodding along a bit.
Yeah, and the other thing, and again, as we all know, I have a big hat mark cynical written on, that I wear regularly. She's very camera friendly, and I feel that during that interview, she was the one that knew where this was going to go. And he was doing some little finger picking. And I'm not saying that's because he wasn't keen. I think he was less confident than she was. He did a funny facial expression when she said we're moving in together. You won't want to hear this because she...
But... no, I was going to say, you definitely have written on my parade.
He said, don't ask me about Christmas and everything. His eyes widened a bit and he kind of pushed his tongue in the side of his mouth. It was almost as though, like he did when she said, we'll get married before then. He was like, oh, really? I think he might quietly be holding back a little bit. Not that he doesn't want to be with her, but also she was doing a bit of marketing there. She was rattling off about, we'll live in London, we'll have good vibes. I felt that was a bit of a pitch for the Andrew and Tasha TVs. It was almost like, we'll be in central London, and we'll be together so you can come and film us. So good for her. Good for her for doing that, though.
Well, I'm still rooting for them anyway. Next up, actually, we're going to look at another couple who have had a really up and down ride on Love Island, India and Dami. But these two moments from the last few days I thought were particularly interesting, actually.
Our opinion doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. When you get out, if you guys want it to work, it's going to work.
It's not to say that you're not compatible. Do you know what I mean?
We know about it, that's what matters, isn't it?
Much. I just feel like when you have a connection, nothing can stop it. It doesn't matter who walks in, whoever tries to speak to you. When you have feelings for someone and they're there, it's just unbreakable.
You could tell at the Casa More recoupling, it was literally tunnel vision. I forgot someone existed beside me. I was literally just aiming at India because I just felt so much,
Yeah, she wasn't too impressed with that.
Now, again, for me, they're another couple who kind of got a lot stronger towards the end. But just looking at that first clip, I thought it was quite interesting how they tackled dealing with something like Luca as a unit, because we haven't really seen that happen much in this series. It's all been quite individual spats with each other, and this one I thought it was really interesting to see how they really worked well together to kind of get to this resolution.
And you're absolutely, and I like the way that they almost didn't need to check in with one another, and that they took a very mutual, even status approach as well. They were completely like-minded, and that was quite difficult because it was a difficult situation for both of them. They could have kind of backed down or they could have got aggressive, but they suddenly turned into this rock-solid team of two who were able to sit very calmly and explain calmly what it was that they'd done and why they'd done it. And when we saw them, I don't know whether they had longer on the day, but all we saw was quite quick conversations about who they were going to choose. I think for me, that moment probably showed a strength in them that was better than all the romantic stuff for me, because I'm never quite convinced about some of. They do great romance, but there's other moments when I look at Dami and I think, I'm not sure you've quite grown up. But this was both of them in grown-up mode, very adult. And yeah, funnily enough, that was almost a stronger sign of good bonding than all the kissing and canoodling and the piano playing and everything like that.
I tell you, because I think it's those moments that it really feels where you get a real sign of who they are as a couple, and there's not this big show and dance about, you know, their relationship. That's who they will be as a team, and I thought that was a really interesting moment for them, actually. And then again, looking at last night when we saw them being interviewed by Laura, I thought possibly more than anyone, I thought, like, not necessarily they were all over each other, but I found like the way that they were held to each other, they seemed more glued to each other in a bit of a more authentic way for me than anyone else last night, actually.
Yeah, they didn't seem to be too much in performance mode, and I know, you know, Gemma and Luca kept saying we don't need to, we know that we're happy, but in a way, I think those two were actually showing that through their body language, that they weren't. I think he clearly wanted to win. I mean, you know, we could tell that. But I think in a way, they, of all the couples, probably showed that it wasn't desperately important for either of them, because they've got this strong unit. I'm not sure it will last outside. I have a feeling that he has got, although he's an intelligent guy, although he was very adult, I think he's still got this side to him that I think that the fame might go to his head a little bit, you know, and the party lifestyle and everything. But I just think that right there and then, they probably made the most congruent couple of the lot, actually.
No, I think, like, I mean, we'll get to Gemma and Ekin-Su and Davide and Luca in a minute, but I think if you say you've got Ekin-Su and Davide on one end of the scale and Gemma and Luca at the other, I felt like India and Dami were kind of somewhere in the middle about where, in reality, you'd want someone to be, I think. I
was sitting there, Adam, and I wanted Ekin-Su and Davide to... No, I wanted Ekin-Su to win. Deadwood. There's only so many topless cookery programs he can do. But I was sort of thinking, no, if I'm unbiased about this, I actually think if you take the good traits and take away the bad traits from everybody, it was almost like those two men should have won, actually. They'd got to the right place. They were showing a really good, solid front. They were both very adult. And they'll need that when they get out. You know, I think there's unresolved stuff between all the other couples, but those two suddenly look like a real power couple, I think, with their body language.
No, I totally. I mean, like, as a viewer, I you know, like we just said, adored Ekin-Su, but I do think, as a couple, I do think India and Dami probably left as the most believable, almost, I think.
And I would have liked India to win. I mean, it was because she was with Dami that there was a bit of an imbalance. But I mean, if she had been with somebody that I'd have seen all the way through a better match with, I would have had them completely up there as my number one couple. I would, even more so than Ekin, I'm afraid.
No, I mean, I adored India. If it could have been India and Ekin-Su in the final, then that would have made my day. Yeah. Okay. Well, next we're going to look at the runners-up, who were actually by the end of the series probably the most divisive couple, I think, with viewers. Let's take a look at Gemma and Luca.
Oh no, you're more than just like a partner. Like, I do genuinely think I've found a best mate in here.
Me too.
Well, we're literally the same person. We get on
I've never been
so well.
so in love with someone.
Yeah.
And like, I've changed while being in here, but it's for the better, I think.
Now we kind of just touched on it a bit there, but I thought it was really interesting because normally towards the end of the series, when it's the fun, everyone lays it on so thick with the kisses and I love yous, and Gemma and Luca really didn't at all, and it was really noticeable for me, especially last night. What did you think about those two clips there and the emphasis on friendship, almost?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about the winner's wobble last week. I think the winner's wobble never got quite as wobbly as that, and you could almost see a couple who could have been real contenders. I mean, right at the start, I was seeing all sorts of genuine stuff there, but unraveling in front of our eyes in a way. And I think the problem was, as you say, they were trading as the couple that were the congruent, authentic. We're not going to go over the top. Take it or leave it. We're the ones that aren't acting, so we're going to be more relatable, which I love. I mean, my goodness, as a body language expert, that's the kind of thing that will sell to me. But it just all went rather wrong, I think, because of the slightly look of sourness about the rest of them. And in a way, I completely get it. And again, you may need to put your hands over your ears right now, Adam, because Ekin was this Oscar-winning actress that went in there. And when you're in a reality show and you're trying to be yourself, which you never can do, but when that's who you're trading on, there's always a character that comes in that appears to be acting, who's bringing the drama, and the rest of them just get exhausted by that stage. They just sit back. Oh, they're going to hog the cameras. They're not being themselves. Surely everybody at home must see this. With Ekin, we saw it, but we still wanted her to win as it happened. But I feel that that's where those two got to in a way, which is we're losing this because we're not joining in with the acting and the drama. But that date was excruciating. I mean, from start to finish, I was actually thinking maybe they can pull something out the bag. But I mean, even to the point where he said, "What was your best moment?" And she said, "Licking Adam." I thought, this is going to kick off again. There's going to be like underwater wrestling going on here in a minute. There's brinkmanship, and then there's a time when maybe the banter might have just backed off a little bit, but they hadn't got that to bring, I don't think, to the company. I'm all for that because for me, it's totally ridiculous that 10 people can all fall in love at exactly the same time. It's stupid. So I would prefer that. But unfortunately, on the background of other aspects of their relationship, it just began to look sad, I think, really.
Because we have said pretty much all the way through the series that there is genuine signs of a connection there, more so than anyone. And it was the kind of, and you're right, and it was the kind of the ease of it that made you feel like that. But then it did feel the last 2 weeks or so that the whatever spark that might have been there, you don't need the big fireworks, but there still has to be some sort of spark, and it felt like that had gone, I think.
Yeah, they both started to look a bit fed up, I think, and I can feel sorry for that because I mean I can't even imagine what it would be like to meet somebody that quickly. I mean, it's like going on a holiday, meeting someone on day one, and then having to live with them for the rest of the 6 weeks in a state of love. I mean, nobody, even if you went with your life partner, that would be a hard thing to do. And I think they were running out of energy and ways to express it. I've got a lot of time for Gemma and I like her honesty. And I think, unfortunately, on a show like that, I think some of her facial expressions are, because she's not doing all the gooey stuff, which I think's fine, don't. And I like her confidence. For me, the worst moment with Gemma was with her mother, when Gemma said, I was beginning to think I was in the wrong, and that's when I nearly screamed at the set, no, you're not.
I think we all did, yeah.
And Luca needs to come out and grow up a bit and get to get things. But it's a shame because I really was looking forward to sitting back and enjoying those two, but even right up to the last minute, it was mixed emotions, not working really. They're just surrounded by all the violins and everything in it.
Yeah. I mean, for most of the series, it felt like it was theirs to lose. But I mean, even at the end there as well, you saw, and they did, and it was. But you could see then. I think they were probably the only couple last night that weren't holding hands or really kind of their body language wasn't really communicating with each other at all. Even though they were, Luca was kind of sat with her, their body language wasn't communicating. There was no interaction in their body language at all last night.
And I think we saw that, didn't we? Even from when they had that meeting with India and Dami, you could see that Gemma sat with her arms crossed and slightly distanced. I mean, they had at moments the most intimate body language when he was standing behind her, he got his hands on her stomach. But those smaller signs, I have to say, with Luca, I was watching him last night, I think he was incredibly nervous, and that explained a lot of his body language. I mean, he was facial expressions all over the place. He was trying to smile. It wasn't working. It was. I don't know why. He'd been in front of the cameras for how many weeks now, but I think, again, it probably was winner's wobble that he suddenly realised that I should sit here grinning all the time, and he just went into a kind of meltdown as far as I was concerned last night.
And it's live TV, isn't it? I guess it's a bit different, I guess, when you're really live. But anyway, at the other end of the scale, we had our winners who really knew how to give everyone what they wanted and laid it on thick. Let's take a look at Ekin-Su and Davide.
I want you in my present and my future. I can't wait to see what the future holds for Davide and Ekin-Su. Ti amo, Davide.
I've been waiting my whole damn life.
Can I just suggest that I will be getting a bag from IKEA, a yellow one, a bean bag on the corner just in case to spice it up, lots of carbonara and lots of...
No, I want,
sorry, what? Just food, yeah?
It's just food, yeah.
Salon will open.
I want to bring her to Italy to meet my parents.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know this.
I mean, the letters I think is one thing. It was nice to see them have that kind of emotion. But last night, I mean, of everyone, the way that Davide's arm and just the kisses. I mean, I'm not convinced it's not dramatic, so I'm not even going to pretend that. But compared to what we just saw there, what did you kind of make of Ekin-Su and Davide's display last night?
I'm waving the flag again for Ekin-Su. Absolute respect to that woman, because what she did, and you won't like this, but I admire her more for doing it. Her speech to him was a pitch. It was a business pitch. I loved it. It was brand upon brand upon brand. I mean, what was it? The Turkish delight and the Italian stallion. Let's speak about yourself in a couple like that normally. But there we go. There went the brand. Newspaper headlines. She's doing everybody's work for them. The press, you name it. She was speaking about herself in the third person, which is a trait that he has as well. The line that she said, I can't wait to see what the future holds for Davide and Ekin-Su. Why don't you just pitch a bit harder? It was like, when we have our spin-off series, she was speaking like a viewer at that point. And absolutely full marks for her. Why on earth would you go on a show like that if it wasn't to get your own spin-off or to get work afterwards? Good for her. But, I take my cynical hat off to her because... why not do it? And I just loved that. Absolutely loved her speech. Was it genuine? We'll see.
I think
she's got to realise when she gets out, either they're going to get booked really quickly as a couple, or I think people are going to want her. Again, Davide is lovely, but is he the most interesting man away from Ekin? I'm not sure. Is she the most interesting woman away from Davide? Yes, of course.
I mean, she is just a one, and I think that's why we all love her so much. It's the shamelessness of it all, isn't it? There's like she hasn't pretended that she doesn't want the attention and the drama and the fame, and and I think I like that. I kind of respect her for it.
Isn't it interesting psychologically, as we both said, you've got two ends of the scale with them and Gemma and Luca, both in their own way being actually real genuine, because Gemma and Luca are kind of trying to play the genuine couple, play it down. She's being genuinely ambitious, pitching, drama. So there is, it's sort of almost genuinely acting, but genuine and good for
That's
her.
the thing. I can imagine that is how she also is when the cameras aren't rolling, though, as well. Like, I do think that is the authentic Ekin-Su, even if it's the drama as well. And I actually think, like, even though she was full of like, you know, brought the drama, I don't think it was necessarily with an intention to win. It was just an intention to be the larger in life character.
Absolutely not. And there's been a lot of Big Brother characters when they've been over the top. And I've said, but you don't understand. They've gone in there with the intention of entertaining us, and good for them. It takes a lot of energy to do that. You know, I think there were quite a few people in this year's Love Island who did go in there to have a holiday and just sit it out. And they annoy me. You know, I'm thinking, no, you're supposed to be entertaining us. So somebody that can genuinely bring the entertainment like that. And without any moments where I felt uncomfortable or, you know, I said to you before, I don't want to see people genuinely upset about anything on that program. It's rough, it's fun. And so she was the perfect answer, really. They're going to be recruiting straight from RADA next year, I tell you.
And what did you think of Davide's body language there? Because he was very hands-on. He was, you know, he had his hand was reaching up to her neck and playing with her neck, and they were really quite cuddled up in the interview last night.
They were. I think a lot of it is down to her. I have to instigating it. I think I still get the feeling from Davide, and again, I like the guy. I think he's great. He was a great person in there. But he always, it's like, here I am, Davide, and I've worked out so you can all admire my body. Oh, and now I'm going to give a bit of Davide to the women and kiss them. And it's almost with him like a performance, as though he knows that's what he's there for. If I met him tomorrow in a TV studio, you know, like a podcast or something, I wouldn't feel that I knew what to say to him, because I don't know the guy. I don't really know what he's like. Again, I probably feel that I know him less than I did at the start of the show. I don't even really know what he does for a living. And I think he's been a great character, and I love his one-liners, but I don't know what's going on in his head at all, really. Which is nothing wrong with that, but I think he has been epic in there. But I find it interesting that, again, he spoke about himself in the third person. I think he's been in there as a brand Davide, and I think he's come out as brand Davide, and good for him. If they genuinely found a connection, that when the door's shut, that's what we want to see, not in a weird way. You know, when the door's shut, what happens between them? You know, do they both go, "Oh, darling, you know, I thought I was wonderful tonight." You know, I don't. Do they take the act off or what? And maybe that'll be what people will want to see. I don't think we'll ever get it, but he's fascinating for the fact that I've not seen the act been dropped yet with him.
I think more than any other Love Island winner, almost, we haven't really seen. We've seen parts of their journey, but not the bits that matter almost with those two. I think with the kind of like you just said, just how they are on a day to day, or just kind of in those moments. But it'll be very interesting to see how they do after the show. But finally, we're gonna.
Sorry, I know. I'm just gonna. We haven't had in this season, I understand why, but there's been no really big fights and arguments. You know, in the past, we've always had one, like the grain of sand that creates the pearl. You know, there's always somebody that's been abrasive and managed to sort of get everybody up. And there's been no big romance between, because sometimes you get more of a view of what the guys are like when they make really good friends in there, and this lot have, but not in the way that we've had in the past.
No, not really. No, I think that's probably right. Right, and finally we're going to look at the big reaction. And I have to say, most people were probably looking more at Luca's reaction than they were Ekin-Su and Davide. But let's take a look at that.
The winners of Love Island 2022 R.
Right, I mean, there's quite a lot going on in there, actually. Like, normally I wouldn't say that in the reaction, but let's start with Luca, because I mean, we'd all practice our loser's face.
Yeah. He should never go to Oscars night. Yeah, his was the worst. I mean, actually, what was interesting, again, I don't want to overstand up for the guy, but in all fairness, there was a stage earlier on when I think when they were left as the only two couples, and she said, "Oh, who's going to win before the break?" And he did point and grinned at the other two. Now that kind of was a bit of generosity, but he was caught looking really, really, off guard there, I think. What was interesting, though, when you look at him when they were waiting for the result, when he was still in the running, when it was, he was really struggling, wasn't he, to hike his mouth up into a smile. And again, I think he got the winner's wobble. I think he was trying to remember to smile, and this horrible rictus grin was even then coming up. But of course, seeing it after the other two won, you got a shot of him kind of frowning, and then suddenly almost like, oh, the cameras are on us. And so it's called a lightning smile. It's when it comes from nowhere and then it vanishes to nowhere as well. A smile takes a long time to go through the face, and it starts with the eyes. He's just trying to do it with his mouth, and it looked completely lacking in any authenticity. He did say something to Gemma. I'm still thinking that they're quite surprised that the actors won it, whereas they perhaps feel that it should have been what they would see themselves as the real couple. Why didn't we appeal? But it did look bad, I have to say.
I mean, I think everyone who was in that villa thought like. So we saw the vote before, didn't we? That they all voted for Ekin-Su and Davide to be the least compatible. But it was interesting that moment, I think, as well, because with Luca, whatever you think of Luca, I'd say he's one of the people who has performed the least for the camera the whole way through. And actually, this was when we saw him putting on something for the camera in a way that we haven't actually seen from him at all this series.
No, you're right, and in a way that's got him into trouble as well. He's been sitting there. You can see with his thought processes all the way through the run that initially it's like he seems to be quite strategic. You can almost see, and he starts to do this staccato head movement when he's trying to work out what happened and eye dart, but then he'll react. Whereas I think a lot of the others have been a lot better at sitting back and smiling politely, but then that has got him. That's probably the reason why he wasn't there winning, I suppose, because he was reacting rather than thinking. I'm still thinking of that guy on the first night that was sitting up in bed in the dark all night with his hoodie on. He's got to be an overthinker. I think that guy came back for the finale, where he was like, he'd almost got his invisible hoodie on, and then he remembered he needed to smile.
I forgot about that guy, yeah.
He'll have to get that sorted out, because I know when people have been on reality shows, they'll spend years in their mind going over what happened and why they didn't win it. I meet them sometimes. They're like, "It was your fault. Your body language." But, oh, come on, it was a long time ago. But he needs to stop overthinking that one and go back to his day job or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, Ekin was almost Nikki Graham levels of drama. I thought, like, but looking at that phone, it was like the shaking, and it was really great. But genuine shock, though, I think.
And I love the way she obviously thought that it would be great to do a sort of partial collapse, where she kind of dropped down and hit her face. All of that, and that's quite a good device if you're not quite sure how to act, and you just hide your face. No, I'm being cynical. I think she was shocked, because I think she knew that she'd gone in as this bombshell to play a role, and I think she probably thought that she'd become very unpopular very quickly, and maybe go out quite quickly or be paired off with Adam, which was I reckon that fate was waiting for her, that she ended up with Adam. But she pulled a good one, really, because, you know, she went in there as a bombshell with a plot line that was prepared for her, but I think she swerved and ended up back with Davide and winning the series. So good for her.
I mean, I really don't think she expected to win, because those characters actually quite often don't. You know, the Nikki Graham never won Big Brother,
No.
but you know, she's a fave. You know, she's the ultimate Big Brother contestant. I think that's probably going to be the same with Ekin-Su. But those characters don't necessarily win it, so I don't think she was expecting that at all.
I think she got enough of the warmth, the intelligence, the sort of, you know, she was very friendly. She became very friendly with all the girls, didn't she?
Yeah.
You know, people were saying, "Oh, they're your mum and dad," which I don't think she'll like that when she reads that on social media. But people put her and Davide into that stereotype, which meant that people began to feel a loving affection towards them, which I'm sure she never expected when she first in there. I mean, I think she probably was going in as, who was the famous one with the dark hair, stunning.
Maura.
Yeah, I think she was going to be that kind of character who kind of went out, everybody liking them, but being a little bit of the naughty one. And she's going out as the mum and dad of the house, which is amazing.
I mean, I think personally, I think she was the best friend in there when she wasn't always treated the same way, and I think that's why we all loved her. So yes, anyway, bow down to Queen Ekin-Su, and may she rule the world. But that's actually it for another series of Love or Lie Island. And I mean, Love Island's going to be back next winter, so it's just around the corner. So hopefully we'll see you all then as well. And thank you so much, Judy, for another great series.
Such good fun.
It's been such a great series. Take care.
Bye-bye.